board, and welcome. So, as you know, Maria and I are hosting this session, which is focused on the recent updates of the ICF Core Competencies that have been announced, I think, at the beginning of September, 8th of September, something like that. So we received some emails, some people being scared about the coach sharing knowledge or other stuff that feels a little bit not exactly what we've been learning and teaching, coaching outside the box, but they aren't that scary as we look at them more closely. So the purpose of this call is to dive a little bit deeper into the differences between the previous competencies, the current competencies that are already live. And we want to hear your questions. So we'll look at each and every competency that has been heavily affected by the change. There's a couple of them that have really, really minor changes, so we won't focus on them that much. And we welcome your questions. Okay, any questions before we begin? Okay. Let me share the link to the board in the chat once again, because we have a couple of people who are joining right now. Welcome, Annette and Kate. And I'm going to share screen so we can look at the same thing, and the people who will watch the recording later can follow a little bit more easily. Okay, so the context. They call them tweaks. There have been some tweaks that have been introduced on the 8th of September, so just about 3 weeks ago. But please note that these are tweaks. The tweaks are only related to the ICF core competencies, not the PCC markers. So at the moment, the bars that we use to evaluate level 1, level 2 recordings are not different. They haven't changed. The ICF has announced some more detail on the changes to the bars and the minimum skill requirements that will be announced this month, in October. But apparently there is no significant impact on the ICF, PCC, and ACC credentialing exam. So someone was also emailing us a little bit scared. Oh, the questions are going to change. What do we need to do? Apparently, there's no major change in the exams for now. But we'll keep you posted if we hear anything different. Any questions? Okay. So we have a walkthrough with the highlight of the changes. Actually, the document is an ICF official document that you can find if you follow the link at the bottom of each slide. And so we're going to look at these, but starting by no significant changes in ICF Core Competency 1, which is about demonstrating ethical practice, because they've just added the ICF core values. I mean, we probably already intended it this way, but they've made it even more explicit. ICF Core Competency 2 is probably one of those who has a bigger number of changes. You can see what's changed by the different color of the text, but we've also highlighted in green on the green post-its on the right-hand side the let's say the focus of the change. So I'll give you maybe a moment or two to skim through and just ask your question, put your hand up, and let's talk about what you are noticing or what's still unclear to you.
Lucia, I'm just curious about use of technology and what that entails.
So I guess as we even more heavily rely on technology for coaching calls, I think this refers to different ways we might use to stay in contact with our client. So I don't think it's a major change, but I guess we would have to stay updated with different ways of connected to have online calls, different tools, different software. I don't think there's anything particularly relevant on this one.
That was also an open question for me, like why there was the need of adding it there. That's an interesting one. Just keep yourself up to date, know that these technologies exist, you can leverage them.
Maybe I can share a short story. I've started with a new client this week, and they weren't used to Zoom. So it took some time for them to jump on the first call because I had to understand or figure out how to install it, connect, and blah blah blah. I thought Zoom was like so common that everyone uses it. Maybe double checking with the client if it's okay. Maybe they want to use Teams or other technology to connect. Just being aware that might not be, the fact that they are using what we are using is not granted. This is my recent story about this.
Wondering how the group feels about the biases piece.
Can I speak?
Yeah, please. Hi, Annette.
I think it's great. Really love that. Specifying not just, context, but, biases and how we come in and our own perceptions are sometimes so filtered by our biases. So I love that it's explicitly, you know, noted. I also, I'm loving the way they changed the wording on 206, the ability to regulate versus the ability to manage. I thought that was interesting because, regulating is one thing and managing is a different thing. The regulating is, you know, you try to do, you try to hold to yourself together, before a session. But managing is a whole different story. It's the skill of managing, which for ourselves, and we can help our clients to do. So I think it's a great distinction. Managing is an art, a skill, right? Something we build over time. Regulating, yeah, hopefully we can all use, some self-discipline but managing is very interesting. I think that's why the mindfulness is great. The mindfulness-based coaching.
And also, now that you're making me think about it, regulating is, regulating yourself and managing. Sometimes I will have big emotions. Sometimes I will need big emotions to set boundaries with my client, for example. And so managing is the skill of understanding what's needed right now and opening myself as a coach to the possibility of
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not necessarily always what I want to do. I love it. Thank you for that. That's a great point.
I also want to highlight the connection, I believe, between 204 and the definition, particularly when it talks about the ongoing development and the need for supervisors, because most biases we have are unconscious. There might be a conscious bias. And the only way of uncovering those and realizing how much we interpret with our own filters is to get help from a supervisor. And the other thing that came out for me when I read when I read the post-its actually, hey, I'm not gonna say it. What is coming up for you as you look at all of those on the right-hand side? There's a big focus on something.
On the coach.
On the coach's well-being. Yeah, say more. What do you think?
I suppose maybe it's a slight pivot to how the coach is, alongside how the coach is making the client feel, by their biases, what's happening to the coach. The only interesting thing about it, I don't know, 209 and 210,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't want to be facetious here, but it's sort of slightly statement of the obvious about coaching. I don't know. I wonder. I just wonder. Obviously, it's much more accurate, specific, and digging down more. I suppose my question is, what are who are the competencies directed at? What's like lays behind this much more sort of forensic and lasered descriptions here?
What does the group think about kids' observation? Darren?
Yeah, I've been doing exchanges with new grads from the coaching school that I originally attended. And I have noticed that many of those fresh coming out of the program, even though they are coaching at least what was previously that PCC level, they will still go in the directions of their curiosity and not the directions that the conversation needs to go. So that feeds into this question of biases. But it's also around that coaching process and the influence of your own thoughts. Being aware of that as they have been coaching me has led me to consider that an awful lot more in my own coaching sessions.
Thank you, Darren.
Is it okay if I add to that?
Of course.
Thank you. No, I think just adding on to what Darren has just said, it's also like, I think they've highlighted the importance of looking after yourself as a coach in order for you yourself to enjoy the process, but also because that's the best way that you can be as a coach. Like, for example, if anyone's done a coaching session where they've been really tired, or I was saying this to Kit yesterday, where I did like 3 sessions in a day and then thought, I can't do more than 3 because it's just too tiring. Because you want to be really present and you want to maintain that level and all this stuff. So I think it's a really lovely addition that they've brought in, that it's not just for you, it's also for the client. Which I think kind of answers Kit's comment there. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean that would be the answer to my own query, which is that bias towards the coach, as you've pointed out, Lucia, that's really helpful, that addition. But yeah, just on 2.0 on the very top there, professional learning. I mean, again, there's already a requirement for that. If you're ACC and that. What do you think's behind that particular expansion there?
The explicit focus on supervision, I think it's added there because in the past years ago, ACC mentor coaching was the only mandatory requirement for renewal. Now, if you check on renewal requirements, you'll find also 10 hours of supervision that can replace 10 hours of mentor coaching. And that's because particularly at the highest level, and if you're practicing, you have a lot of clients, you do need an external help to make sure that you are constantly looking at your practice, reflecting on what's happening and how you can serve your best client. I mean, I've had 2 sessions and I've got at least 2 or 3 topics for supervision. It's normal. We're always asking ourselves how we can serve our client better, and it wasn't explicit before. So I believe that's very important, and it goes really well hand in hand with biases, but also with managing the emotion. I mean, yeah, all of that. And to, I guess, to Kit's point, what I love about 209 is that, yes, they encourage the coach to bring their humanity, so openness and curiosity into the room, but not just about the client, about self and about the process. So what's emerging from me as a coach, what's happening, what's going on for me, which we extensively talk about in the mindfulness coaching course, but also what's happening in the space between us. Yeah, what are the dynamics at play in the coaching room? Anything else before we move on? Oh,
Just really quickly, sorry. I was just wondering if you think there's a way they're going to check this, if you will. So, for example, how do we prove that with having constant supervision and mentor coaching, or
what
do
do
we
you,
not need to?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So, you know, for example, if so in the process of applying for the PCC, you have to say, I've had 10 hours with this person as a mentor coach. Is that something we may have to do if they were to just call on us at any moment and say, can you show that you're engaged in ongoing personal and professional development?
You have to provide the contact details of your mentor, coach, or supervisor, and I am contacted.
Okay. Okay. So it is something that they will actually actively check. Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll tell you more. On coaching platforms, they don't accept submissions of new coaches, some of them at least, if you can't prove you're being supervised.
Wow.
Yeah, Kit.
Sorry, I mean, this is just a practical point. I mean, I've had supervisions for 10 years, ever since I've been a coach. I mean, obviously, Lucia, you're fantastic value, but some coaching supervisors are really expensive. And sometimes if you're going, and this is one of the problems, isn't it? I think for coaches that are starting out, if they make this mandatory, I don't know.
It is not mandatory. You can use 10 hours of your 10 of your CCs with supervision.
Yeah.
Group supervision is a much cheaper option.
Yeah, I was going to say that whether group supervision work, because individual, if it's £200 a go, 10 sessions, that's £2,000 in sterling.
Group. I would go for group, and it's also quite. I've had both one-on-one supervision and group supervision as a participant, not as a supervisor, and I've actually enjoyed group supervision quite a lot.
Yeah, I've done that. I find it just as helpful. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And moving on.
Lucia, I just wanted to add to Felicity's point that I remember that competency number 2 was like the ICF make sure that you're buying into this competency through the test. So when you get to your ACC and PCC certification. So this is another point where they will make sure you have the mindset.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Core Competency 3, there's only a couple of updates. I'll give you a moment to go through, and then we can talk about that too. Any questions or everything is clear?
What I'm reading out of this is the understanding that coaching is not, the definition of coaching is not set on stone, it's not black and white, and everybody like integrates it through watching it through their lenses. And so the invitation of understanding what is coaching to you and what is your style and what's the unique value you offer to your clients. That's what I'm reading out of this. How does it sound to you?
I would agree. I think that's a nice addition, 301, because how we coach is who we are is how we coach. I think that's important.
And it's our unique signature. So it's good to know what it is and be able to articulate it. Anything else?
We are back to biases, trying to make the unconscious conscious.
So true. Okay, then there are no changes to ICF Core Competency 4, Cultivating Trust and Safety. And we have one on Core Competency 5, Presence. Let's have a look. They added this for you, Maria.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this one.
I would say this present awareness.
Mm.
Mm.
So remains aware of what is emerging for self and clients. It's more the same of what we were talking about, in terms of the coaches' filters and emotions and maintaining, managing, and all of that. So it's sort of a continuation of that, but it's also like this focus is it's what do we do with that awareness that sometimes stumps me? So if we do become aware of what's emerging for ourselves and the client, how do we manage it, that awareness? I know I personally have trouble with that.
How do we manage that awareness? I think what's coming up for me is an image, and knowing that, for example, if I know that I'm wearing red colored glasses, lenses, and I'm seeing green in front of me, I know that the red glasses I'm wearing are influencing that green. And so I know that probably what I have in front of me is not really green, it's probably blue. Just my glasses are, are shaping this for me. So I think it helps me to weight what I'm seeing and reminding myself that what I see is not absolute truth. There is always a margin of interpretation and different ways to see it. Someone that has black lens is not gonna see green. So we don't necessarily need to interpret it. We just want to know bias is present and opening up our awareness and being open to possibility instead of getting really fixated on what we see. This is how I read this. This is how I use this knowledge. How does it sound?
It sounds great. Um, it sounds great if what we're talking about, what you're saying is like, okay, so I know that I'm thinking this and I'm feeling this and I'm thinking this and it could be I'm wrong. But what if, like, I know I speak for myself. I sometimes have like a direct awareness. Okay, a direct awareness is like, this client is the way that this client is talking right now. I'm sensing an image, or I'm sensing something about what's behind this, let's say, right? So I have this flood of stuff that comes in, and then I don't know how to manage it.
What comes up for me, Annette, I remember once when I wasn't able to manage, I wasn't the right coach for that person because my trigger and there was a clash in a value system in that particular case didn't allow me to be neutral and to serve my client. So maybe the reflection point here is that if you are aware but you can't manage, maybe that there's an opportunity to consider whether you are the right coach for that person, or if you are in a good space to coach any client, if it's not for that specific client, but it's more of a general thing.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
What's coming up for me is that I find that a very healthy assumption that I think is healthy for me to hold is reminding myself that I know I don't know. I constantly don't know. And so every time that an assumption comes up or a story about a client, or I feel like I have the solution for this person, I find it is very helpful to remind myself I don't know. And that's when I find I start paying attention, I start being curious, and I ask the right question because I ask instead of assume.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I think this is the mantra that for me works in this occasion.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Happy to move on? Okay, so this is just a change in the, it was in the present tense, now it's in continuous present, and now we get to the hot one.
Yes, so many people on the internet went crazy because of this. Curious what this room feels about it.
I'll stop sharing, 'cause this is worth
Eye contact.
a bigger screen. So what do you think about the coach sharing knowledge? When do we share knowledge? Or what knowledge do we share? What's appropriate, what's not?
Also, what is knowledge?
Definitely one of the ones that's completely baffled me. I think, like you said, Marie, even just that question of what is knowledge, what is the definition of knowledge in this case? Like, there's no universal truth about what that is. So, yeah, very confusing.
Well,
Go ahead, Annette.
one of the things I'm thinking of within the context of, say, mindfulness, I am taking a mindfulness-based course now with Lucia and Maria. For instance, is exactly that. So knowledge, let's say, of something having to do with, how do I help this client perhaps, go within, close their eyes, go within, see what's present. There's going to be a certain amount of direction, and there's going to be a certain amount of knowledge that I need to impart to this client. That's like, what are you asking me to do? What is this? So it has to be within a context. It has to be within something that I either before or after or in between sessions or something where I'm introducing something to this client. And perhaps for the first time, and they might not have done mindfulness before, they might not know what it's about. But yeah, granted that they already know that this is what I do. I get the whole context, right? But they don't know. So I need to impart some knowledge about direction or how to do it or what it will bring them. Just what is the definition of mindfulness? This is what it's about, or either objective. It could be objective knowledge, or it could be also like bringing in some knowledge that we have about general communication. Like there's constructive communication, and there's passive aggression, and then bringing in out sort of like knowledge that is just objective knowledge that one can look up, right? And then there's other types of knowledge, which is personal knowledge from our own experience, right? That's a different story, I guess. So I don't know.
Nice, really nice, Annette. I'm writing things down because this could be. Say again the last thing. Knowledge about from your
Personal knowledge from our own experience. So sometimes, it's filters from our own experience. Like, I know what it's like to judge myself and be, really hard on myself. So I'm listening to a client being very, very hard on themselves, and I'm going to be not imparting my own experience, but perhaps imparting something having to do with being the worst self-critic, on earth, things like that. But I'm saying knowledge just from personal experience. So there's that, and then there's objective knowledge. When it can go up, right?
Can you give an example of this objective knowledge, please?
One of them was mindfulness that I was talking about before. So what is mindfulness? So I'm going to go in, I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to go within. And what is this all about? What is mindfulness? So I need to do something to explain, to define. Yeah.
I have a challenge for you, Annette. I'm wondering if this is objective knowledge, because there are so many different definitions of mindfulness. We said it's like the definition of love. It means something to me that doesn't mean the same to you. Some people will find mindfulness very beneficial. Others will feel like it's a waste of time and they don't need to pause. I think I was talking about this with Lucia this morning. Isn't all knowledge subjective? Isn't all knowledge affect seen through our lenses?
Yes, and I will put that, and we were talking about it yesterday in a faculty team meeting. I will put that in the knowledge about the process we're facilitating. So we step into a more direct, informative style to explain what we do because we own the process and we're sharing what we own. We're sharing the process we're going to go through. Okay. But there's something that I would put under this umbrella, and I encourage you to share some examples too, which comes from, I don't know, sharing something I've read on a book, or saying, Simon Sinek says, start with why. What do you think about that? How is that applicable here? So it's objective knowledge in a sense that comes from a book. It comes from, it's a or it might be a subjective knowledge, so something that I believe is true. Work-life balance is important. Or something we believe is true.
But even if it comes from a book, it comes from the subjective knowledge of the author.
The author, yes, of course.
That's what I was going to say. The scientist in me says that the objective knowledge is research driven and has data behind it.
Yeah.
And then everything else is our interpretation of that.
But even research, Martin, we would say that research predicts truth for groups, but not for individuals. Something that is true for statistic wise doesn't mean it's true for me.
No, of course.
No, I would even challenge that. Everything is subject and subjective. And so I go back to, I know, I don't know.
Well, there is objective truth, though. Like I've had clients who try to pack more things into a day than they actually have time for. And when you lay it out, you can say, well, gosh, this is 16 hours of work and you've only got 12 hours to do it in. What does that mean to you?
I can think of cases in which people will have 3 jobs and that's what they need to do to survive and to take care of their families, for example. And we cannot tell people don't do that. What do you think?
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying that at all. I work with some of those people too. I'm giving that example of, hey, you've laid out 12 hours of time that you have. And if you actually look at the work that has to be done, it's going to take a lot longer than that. So what does that mean?
I love the question at the end. You're stating facts, you're mirroring what's happening, and you ask, what do you want to do out of this?
So there's one thing that stays strong for me, and it's, in both the old version and the new version, even though it's not highlighted, I will put it in bold, and it's the without attachment. Because whatever we offer, it doesn't matter if it's knowledge, observations, or feelings, or whatever, the moment we offer it, like Darren just did, with a question mark at the end, with an invitation to explore what that means to you. Simon Sinek says starts with why. How does that land with you? It means we're not attached to it, and it doesn't matter if we believe this is true or someone else has written it on a book. It might not work for the client. So to be honest, even this one that seems to be a lot of noise around this doesn't change the way I coach, to be honest. I don't know if it would change yours. What do you think?
I completely agree with you there, Lucia. I think also the fact that it's that as long as it creates a new insight, so you're not asking the questions because you're interested in it, you're asking because you're doing it with the intention that your client's gonna get some insight from it. The only reason why I'm a little bit worried about this is because, in my opinion, it is so open to interpretation what knowledge is, that I think it could be something that people could, the barriers and the boundaries of what could be classed as knowledge and could become more blurred. So for example, if someone was sharing something and they were doing it in an assessment or something like that, then they could just turn around and say, no, but that was my version of knowledge. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I completely agree with the principle of the 2 second bits. As long as the two bits afterwards are true, then the first one doesn't really matter. But I think they've created a lot more work for themselves, in my opinion.
Open interpretation, absolutely. Kit.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. It may just be an acknowledgement of what's going on in that everybody, I mean, we've talked about this before, especially, if you're just clean and pure language coaching, some people, do find that you sometimes got to flex a style a bit. I mean, I go for Felicity, and also maybe knowledge in the way that Annette was saying, in terms of tools. Sometimes you might introduce a Robert Dilts thing, or you say, "Have you ever heard of, the 7 Habits," or whatever it would be. I suppose the danger is that people who are just starting out coaching think, "Oh, maybe a bit of mentoring is okay then." That's the only thing that I would say. And I guess I don't know whether I know we're going to come on to this next, whether it in some way links to 807 partnering with the client to integrate learning. I don't know whether there's an element of that there, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I would say let's have a look. So the last one. Any thoughts?
I'm sad to see the demise of the word celebrating personally, but maybe that's just my personality. I think, anyway.
I was going to say I was struck by the post-it note, less cheerleading, more seeing. I'm a bit of a cheerleader, so maybe I have to put my pom-poms away. Like Kit says, maybe that's my personality coming through as well, but I often find that people don't celebrate the successes, and therefore maybe if we're mirroring or modeling that for them.
And as a mentor coach, I've seen so many times coaches saying, "Great work today," which is it's more like pom-pom style, as you said, which is very different from the expectations at the MCC level. We talk about this with Maria a lot as well, which is more, "Hey, I'm seeing you. Hey, this was super tough today. You're bringing so much desire to become who you want to be. I see you." It's acknowledging who they're being in the session rather than, "Well done." And I think I'm not English, but my interpretation of that change is that slight difference.
I think for me, the difference between being result-oriented to well done of everything you achieved to effort-oriented. I'm seeing the effort that you put through the session and the shift that has happened. That's how I read this.
I'd agree with that. I think you're absolutely right. Acknowledging, having empirical, observational, almost feedback into saying, "I've noticed that this and that's one," and acknowledging that. I suppose it's more about language than exactly what's going on. I suppose it's the word celebrate has that sort of that EQ side to things where you want to really someone to say, "Look, actually, what you're doing is this is really wonderful work," and really, I suppose the word acknowledge is not quite as hasn't got the same power, but I agree with what you said.
We wouldn't be making so much progress today if you weren't so brave and vulnerable. Instead of, well done, well done, we've achieved so much. So yes, what Maria said, effort, but also who they are being, and what they are putting to shift into something new.
I remember when I was not yet qualified and I was having the mentor coaching, and I took that literally, celebrate client success. And I was kind of like, hurrah, maybe not quite so bold, but and the mentor coach saying to me or picking me up on it, just for exactly what you're saying, is like, it's not for you to tell them how proud you are or whatever. It's for you to observe back to them and let them, what insights did you have as well, kind of offering that back to us as to what they've achieved.
I think it also acknowledging in a way as a form of celebration, in my opinion, but I think it also kind of covers situations where, for example, if someone has set a particular action and they've come to the session, they haven't done the action. So instead of not celebrating them because they haven't done the action, you're focusing on the learnings that has come from that and what has changed, as opposed to just being like, well, you haven't done what you're supposed to do, da da da. And I think that encompasses it quite nicely as well, the word acknowledgement. So,
Yeah, you were about to say something?
No, nothing to add. Thank you.
And I also like the previous one, the one they added. So this one, 807, because it's very common to see coaches to go from what are you learning to what's next, or the other way around, even the other way around in ACC recordings very often, just because it's, oh, I'm forgetting to ask what you're learning. While this is like, it's the learning that is being translated into action. Does it make sense? I'm not sure if I was super clear. So based on what you've learned, how you're going to be different? What are you going to do differently? It's the learning that feeds. It's the new awareness that becomes action. So I felt they put a bridge between the two.
Yeah.
What do you feel?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so it's sorry. So
yeah,
it's not
I
just
thought that was good. Yeah.
so it's not enough to like say, what has shifted for you from the beginning of the session to the end of the session. What has shifted? What is this? The new awareness, but also how do we bring this new awareness into? How are you going to apply this? I think is what you're saying, Lucia. How does this translate into what you're going to be doing? And let's take step one to, what will support you, and so that we look, sometimes awareness and insight is wonderful, but then it's fleeting, right? You're great for that moment, and then 2 hours later you're back to whatever, an hour later. But if you tie it to some kind of an action, then there's hope that that awareness will be processed, right? The client is processing, and in that process is an integration, and in the action is the integration. Yes, that's becoming clearer. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, and it stresses the importance of PCC marker 8.4 that I put in the chat. The coach invites the client to consider how they will use new learning from this coaching session. And it's a marker that is often, forgotten, that I see forgotten in ACC recordings, for example, when we are a little bit more junior.
The other thing that I think is fascinating about this one is that it's throughout the coaching engagement.
Thanks.
We've got right before that, we've got it within and between sessions, but this is for the entire length of the engagement.
Absolutely. Thank you for noticing that, Darren.
Will the markers be changing as well?
I don't believe so, no.
Not yet.
No. No, I hope not. Because of course, our training material has to follow them. So we have to change everything.
How do we feel about the whole changes now?
It seems to be so much more emphasis on the coach, on the coach's well-being. It reminds me of something I read, Lucia, on one of your on the literature where you wrote about the survey that was done for how well clients of therapists who had, for instance, a certain type of training in presence and awareness, how well their clients did versus others, other clients whose therapists did not have training or, in self-awareness, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be mindfulness. It could be, Tai Chi or whatever it is. But that's strong self-awareness and coaching presence, and that will help their clients. So there seems to be so much more emphasis on the coaches' filters, what they bring to the session, and that in turn will help to acknowledge more, see more, and serve their client more. So this is a lot more awareness and presence, and more about the coach in these. That's the way I see it. So it's wonderful.
Thank you, Annette, for noticing that. One more voice.
I just think that's follow up Annette's point. I think that's absolutely what I'd taken away from it is this almost being this. Although we're all self-awareness is so important, but asking us to focus on our own self-awareness, in possibly a bit more of a. I mean, obviously, it's sort of saying to really think about that a bit more than you have been doing, perhaps. I think the only one that I think is tricky, which we talked about, I think that the knowledge one, I think is, I personally I would have left that out, but anyway. Okay.
Any last ones? Oh, maybe a different question. I'm curious. What is going to change in your approach based on this, if anything?
I think for my intake sessions, I'll do a little bit more describing of what my approach is.
The philosophy piece, right? That's an interesting one. I think, first of all, it would require some self-awareness and try to understand myself, what my own coaching philosophy is to start with.
Anyone else?
I think putting into practice the theory that, you just check in with yourself before the start every session rather than sometimes, of course, I never do it, rush in and log on and say hello. But, that whole thing where I think that's perhaps that's one thing that is important. But I'm glad the ICF have focused in on this. I think it's a really, really good thing.
I think the first signal was when they introduced the 10 hours of supervision or mentor coaching as CCEs for renewal. And in some courses, particularly team coaching, but I would say it applies also to one-on-one coaching. It's part of the programs. We don't make it mandatory, not yet, maybe, but yeah, we do have group supervision courts. Cool. One last thing. I mean, I think most of you are already in our in our community. Yes, all of you are in our community. There is a coaching dojo coming up soon. So just a reminder of some upcoming stuff. There is a coaching dojo coming up soon. It's not fully booked yet, which is weird. So I'm putting the link in the chat. Annette, maybe you're new. I'm not sure if you tried the dojo. This is our space where we practice with mentor feedback. We split in 3 rooms.
Can you explain?
Yes. We accept 36 people max, and we split in 3 rooms. Christine, Maria, and I will be in each room, so that each room has an instructor, and we practice coaching with feedback. So there will be a coach and a client. Everyone else goes off video, and we do live practice. Of course, coaches volunteer. You're not forced to do.
Very focused practice. That's what's different from normal, let's say, round of practice. So we pick one competency each time, and we give tailored feedback on that one. So it tends to be very
and how long? I mean, you have a lot of people in each group.
We do 1 hour, 2 coaching rounds.
2 coaching rounds, so it's like 30 minutes.
90 minutes, sorry, I'm wrong. 90 minutes, 2 coaching rounds, 20 minutes coaching, 10 minutes feedback, and then we do an opening and a wrap up. Bye, Kate. Thank you for being here. So the next one, if you follow the link in the chat, the next one is on the 21st of October, and it's going to be on establishing a maintaining agreement, because we're starting again from Core Competency 3. And then I'm not sure if all of you are level 2 trained, but we're also starting a level 2 very soon. So we've opened registration for our PCC program beginning 24th of November. So if you are interested in bridging the gap between ACC and PCC, the first module in particular is designed for that. And we start on Mondays on 24th of November. Just reach out if you're interested. And if you're not, maybe one of your friends is. And we offer, our affiliate program offers a 200 euros cashback if you refer a friend who registers for the whole program. Any questions? Any closing thoughts?
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
See
you so much.
Thank you.
Really
Bye.
appreciate
Bye.
it.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great day.
Bye.